Everyone in the city thought they knew her story. A quiet girl, grieving her family. But when bodies started piling up, one detail couldn't be ignored. Every victim was connected to the night her family died. And that's when they started to suspect her.
The city never slept. Lights glimmered from skyscrapers, traffic hummed in the distance, and somewhere in the quiet suburbs, the town's pulse quickened with fear. For months, a serial killer had haunted the streets, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and whispered rumors. Everyone had wondered who it could be. Everyone had a theory. And tonight, the news would break. The case had a suspect. Her name was Lila. Lila was a quiet girl, the kind who blended into the background. She walked the streets with careful precision, always alone, always alert. Her hair was pulled back neatly, her eyes sharp and calculating beneath lashes that seemed too long for her pale face. Neighbors often said she smiled too calmly, like someone who had seen too much and said nothing. That smile, the kind that never reached her eyes, left an unease lingering in the air around her. For months, the whispers followed her. In grocery stores, friends would glance at her with suspicion, voices low enough not to be overheard. "Do you think it's really her?" they asked, their heads darting nervously to where she stood, pretending to read labels on cereal boxes. Lila noticed, of course. She always noticed. But she never reacted. She never needed to. Suspicion, she thought, was the perfect camouflage. It made people watch their own backs while she moved freely through their lives. The city had been on edge for weeks. Every missing person, every unsolved case, every anonymous tip added to the tension. Police presence increased on the streets. Cameras flashed in every corner. And yet, no one could have imagined that the girl everyone suspected would be the one standing in the center of their world with the most serene expression imaginable. It happened suddenly. 2 officers arrived at her apartment, badges glinting under the harsh hallway light. "Lila Harper?" one asked, voice firm but not unkind. She looked up from her book, eyes steady. "Yes?" "You're coming with us for questioning regarding the recent serial killer case," the officer said. Calm, procedural. Routine. But Lila's pulse quickened, not out of fear, but anticipation. She didn't resist. She followed them through the streets, every step measured, every motion deliberate. Neighbors peeked from their windows, some whispering, some shaking their heads in disbelief. Friends gasped silently as she was led away. Could it really be her? They wondered. The station was sterile, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Lila was seated at a metal table, hands folded neatly in front of her. Across from her sat Detective Harris, a tall man with deep lines etched into his face from years on the job. "We found evidence linking you to the murders," he said, sliding a folder across the table. The papers were crisp, filled with fingerprints, photographs, and timelines. "Do you deny it?" Lila tilted her head slightly, her voice calm, even melodic. I don't know what you mean." The detective's eyes narrowed. "We have fingerprints on multiple crime scenes. Witnesses have placed you near several incidents. This isn't a coincidence." I'm careful," she said softly. Her tone didn't tremble. It didn't falter. It unnerved him. "You've been seen near the locations of the murders, haven't you?" he pressed, leaning forward. Lila's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Perhaps. But seeing someone doesn't mean they did anything." Detective Harris rubbed his temples, frustration building. He tried a new tactic. "We know you've been studying the victim's habits. You've been planning this." She shook her head ever so slightly. "I observe people. It's human nature to notice patterns." The detective slammed his hand on the table, startling her slightly, though her composure never broke. "Patterns don't explain fingerprints. You've been careful, haven't you? Always one step ahead, thinking no one could catch you." Lila's smile widened just slightly. "Detective. People always think they see more than they do. Sometimes, they miss the obvious." For hours, he pressed her with questions, tried psychological tricks, and even implied knowledge he didn't fully have. Yet every answer, every reaction, was calm, controlled, and perfectly measured. She gave just enough ambiguity to keep him uncertain. Eventually, the evidence was analyzed thoroughly. Some prints were smudged. Some photos were inconclusive. A few pieces had been misinterpreted or planted. Slowly, the tension shifted. The detective looked at her, unsure. Friends and family, who had been waiting outside the station, breathed a collective sigh of relief. "She's innocent," they whispered to one another. It couldn't have been her. Lila walked away from the station, alone. Her steps were precise, measured. She carried herself with the grace of someone untouchable. And as she disappeared down the quiet street, a faint, almost imperceptible smile crossed her lips, a secret only she could understand. That night, Lila returned to her apartment. The city hummed quietly beyond her windows, oblivious to the predator sitting calmly in the shadows. She turned on a single lamp, casting long, crooked shadows across the room. Carefully, she opened a hidden drawer in her desk, revealing a folder lined with photographs, newspaper clippings, and meticulous notes. Each page was a story. A life. A puzzle solved, she removed a new photo from an envelope and slid it into the collection. Another victim. Another detail. Each image was perfectly aligned with the others, as if she were arranging pieces of a puzzle only she could see. She traced the edges with her fingers, a ritual perfected over months of planning. She leaned back, studying her work, eyes gleaming with satisfaction. "They'll never know," she whispered to herself, her voice soft but deadly certain. "I've always been one step ahead." The walls of her apartment were lined with clippings, maps, and timelines. Patterns emerged from the chaos, details only she could understand. Every observation, every step she had taken, every person she had encountered had been catalogued, analyzed, and accounted for. She checked her phone. A notification from the news app congratulated the police for solving the case. She read quickly, eyes scanning every word. Every detail had been carefully written to reassure the town, to provide comfort. But Lila smiled wider, almost predatory. The truth remained hidden, wrapped in her calm, serene exterior that no one had ever penetrated. She moved to the window, looking down at the streets. People went about their lives, oblivious. Children played. Neighbors chatted. Cars honked. All unaware that a killer walked among them freely, undetected. Lila allowed herself a small shiver of excitement. Tomorrow would bring another plan, another observation, another step forward. In the quiet of her apartment, she began to make notes, names, locations, timelines. Every detail meticulously documented. Every plan executed perfectly, every move measured. Patience had been her greatest weapon, the art of making people believe in coincidences, mistakes, and misdirection. Hours passed. Midnight turned into early morning. Her lamp burned steadily, illuminating the pages in front of her. Each photograph seemed to stare back at her, eyes frozen in time yet alive in her mind. She closed the folder and leaned back in her chair, a faint, satisfied smile curling on her lips. "They'll never know," she whispered again, softer this time, almost as if speaking to the victims themselves. "I've always been one step ahead." Outside, the city moved on. People slept, unaware that the girl everyone suspected, the girl who had walked among them quietly, invisibly, had orchestrated everything with meticulous precision. Tomorrow, the city would wake to headlines and celebrations, unaware of the truth, the girl everyone suspected was the girl no one truly saw, and in the shadows of her apartment, as the first rays of sunlight crept across the walls, Lila began to plan again. Another name. Another story. Another life that would intersect with hers. And she would smile silently, knowing she was untouchable, and that the world would continue to believe in coincidences, mistakes, and false innocence, because no one ever saw her. No one ever really saw Lila. They celebrated thinking justice had been served. Little did they know, she had already decided who came next. Some smiles hide the darkest secrets. If you loved this video, make sure to like, leave a comment about what you think, and subscribe for more videos like this.